Hi there! As promised, I'm going to now talk about complex sentences. I looked in a different video at compound sentences. They're similar in many ways, but they do have one fundamental difference. So with a compound sentence, we talked about how you would take a coordinating conjunction. So a conjunction is a joining word, like the junction on a road. If it's a coordinating conjunction for a compound sentence, like we looked at last time, it is making two sentences work together, coordinate, to make one sentence. With a complex sentence though, it is a bit more complex. When we use a conjunction, it's actually what we call a subordinating conjunction. That means that one of the sentences that we begin with is going to become subordinate to the other, is going to become dependent on it. So let's look at an example. I could take two sentences, it is raining, I will stay inside. I could then join them with the subordinating conjunction because. Because it is raining, I will stay inside. What we've done there is now I've got because it is raining, which does not make sense on its own. I will stay inside still does. So I will stay inside is what we call an independent clause. Still can be completely on its own and make sense. But the first bit can't anymore. Because it was raining, I stayed inside. So that's why we call it a subordinating conjunction, because that first bit is now dependent on the other. Some people call that a subordinate clause. That's what it used to be called. Mostly now it's called a dependent clause, but children might know it as independent, dependent, subordinate, main clause, things like that. If you'd like some clarification on the terminology, feel free to send me a message and I can go through that a little bit more. The two parts of that sentence then, a complex sentence, can normally be mixed around. So I could say, if it is sunny, I will go to the park. Or I could say, I will go to the park if it is sunny. Normally they can be changed around. If you're going to try that, just make sure that they still make sense. It still makes sense either way. When we have the subordinating conjunction at the start, we'd use a comma. So when I am grown up, comma, I want to be a vet. I wouldn't need a comma if I said, I want to be a vet when I'm grown up. We can look at commas in more detail another time. The thing to do to check whether a sentence is indeed complex or not is to remove that subordinated conjunction and check whether you do have two sentences left. I looked at sentences in a separate video, and it must have, to be a sentence, it needs to have a verb and a subject. So an action and a thing doing that. So something like, even though I am short, I reached the highest shelf. Even though I am short, I reached the highest shelf. If I take away the even though, I've still got I am short and I reached the highest shelf. I've got two sentences which still make sense on their own if I remove that. Some subordinating conjunctions look like adverbials or vice versa. I'll do a separate video on adverbials, but adverbials basically describe how, when, or where we do something. So some overlap with complex sentences in a confusing way. Here's an example. The word before can be found in adverbials, but also is a subordinate conjunction. If I use it in the following way, I've created a complex sentence. Before I go to school, I will brush my teeth. That's a complex sentence. If I take away the before, I still have, I go to school, I will brush my teeth. However, if I was to just say, before school, I will brush my teeth, school on its own, when I've taken away that word, before, is not a sentence, it's just a word. So it's really important that children understand the way to check. So if you, with a complex sentence, to check whether you've got one, remove the subordinating conjunction, and you should be left with two sentences that make sense on their own. Complex sentences catch out tons of people, and actually I'm not ashamed to admit that they took me a good couple of years to properly figure out as a teacher. If I haven't managed to explain it to you in the last 3 minutes, please feel free to get in touch. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what doesn't make sense. I'd love you to ask me to help, and I'm really happy to get back to you on that. So please do let me know. Send me a tweet, find me on Instagram, comment on the video, whatever you prefer. And likewise, if there's any learning that you really want me to cover that I haven't, please do let me know that as well, and I'll do my best to make a video about it. Thank you very much. Bye bye.